Hello, hello, hello. It's Dr. Tread Rissacker. It is 9:30 in the morning. It is March 27th of 2024, and I am back online. I took a little hiatus, just took a little time off, but I'm still here, and I have some incredibly important news to carry with you today. I've been doing a lot of health journeys on my own, and I recently have embraced some fasting. Yeah, some fasting. I've been reading a lot about intermittent fasting and time restricted eating and the benefits of fasting, and it was absolutely mind blowing the results that I got from my fasting. So I'm not really here to talk about fasting today. And what I am here to talk about is your brain activity. Now, you know that the most important organ, every part of our body is important, whether it's the lungs, the head, the brain, the heart, your muscles. You're only as strong as your weakest link, as they say. And yet it's amazing how much time we spend on our teeth, maintaining our beautiful smile, because people see that. And we also work pretty hard on our posture because we don't want to be slumping. And of course, maintaining a nice look, a nice, slim, trim, healthy look would be, getting rid of that outside body fat. Now, and these are super important. However, nothing comes as important as your brain health. I remember my mom, who was, a fantastic mom, passed away a few years ago. And one thing she always told me, and I remember this very well, is she said, you need to take care of your brain. She says, eventually your muscles will get weak and your looks will go away. And the only thing that you're really going to have to rely on is your brain activity. How healthy is your brain? So quit doing things which would harm your brain. And, when you're in your late teens and, just getting out of high school and stuff, it was hard to relate to that. But I sure understand it today, because as I'm now getting into my golden years, I am now 63 years old. And truthfully, I'm healthier than I've ever been, because I just decided it was time to do something. I don't want to be sick and I don't mind dying. I just don't want to be sick before I die. Who wants to have that? And it's a term we called lifespan, is how long you're going to be on the planet. Most people understand the term lifespan, but then there's another term called health span. And that would be how healthy you are until you reach your lifespan. And you want lifespan and health span to be perfectly equal. You want them to be together. In other words, you want your health to run out when your life runs out. Now, try the opposite. Have a really long lifespan, which medicine and knee replacements and all the different types of emergency care we have available, it will extend your lifespan. But what is about your health span? Do you want to? I'd rather be 75, 80 years old and have my health span equal my lifespan and then die, versus losing my health in my 50s or 60s and then living another 20 years being sick and miserable. That, to me, is why I have the Slim Body Laser Spa. It's why I've dedicated so much of my time and effort into educating people about wellness and about choices you make. I don't mean to be critical of medicine and all the drugs, but in my opinion, medicine should only be used as an emergency when you messed up, when you've made mistakes, when you're in trouble and you need crisis care. They're wonderful at crisis care. Don't come to a chiropractor if you're in an auto accident and you're bleeding. We're not going to be able to help you. Medicine is super at first aid and this type of care, but it's terrible at managing chronic diseases. I mean, the symptoms, the system is against getting cures. The medical pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry and the hospital industry is not really that they're not really focusing on prevention and things you can do to not need medicine. They believe in medicine. So every suggestion you get, every time you go to the doctor, it's going to be their model of healthcare. And to me, let's realize that you can make choices today to make better choices, to live longer, to live fuller, and to have more enjoyment from life. And you know what? It really begins and ends in your brain. So that's why I'm here today. I'm going to bring out this. This is a PowerPoint that I had gotten from a group that I had done some work for. And I had done this presentation several times at some assisted living centers. And it just made sense to do it here. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this. So this is a presentation called The Keys to Embrace Aging. And this is about brain activity. And this is all of the things that you need to know about maintaining and sustaining a healthy brain. All right. I know it doesn't get much attention because it's buried in the skull. And when we think of brains, I think of crazy scientists, pulling brains out of petri dishes and out of jars of formaldehyde. But that's really not what we're talking about here. Your brain is the center of everything. All of your bodily systems, your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, your digestion, your muscles, your balance, your coordination, your hearing, your ability to see things. It's all controlled and regulated and endorsed by brain function. Brain function equals lifespan and health span. But what do we do to keep our brain healthy? Most people, I didn't know this, much of it. I mean, I had some suspicions that food and diet and exercise and sleep and staying away from toxins was probably a good idea, but I really didn't realize how important it was. So for that reason, I'm going to really go over this today so you understand exactly what's happening, okay? So let me just bring this screen up for you. And I will minimize myself down to the bottom here. And we're going to look at this slide together. Okay, so this is a presentation on keys to embracing aging. Brain activity presented by Dr. Tread's Slim Body Laser Spa. So let's get over here. Now, your brain is a highly complex organ. Did you know that you have over 100 billion? That's billion neurons. There's more connections within your neurons where those nerves connect than there are stars in our universe. Think of that. Your brain only weighs 3 pounds, but it uses 25% of your body's energy. 25% is used by only 3 pounds of you. Okay. And 60% of your brain is actually fat. It's not protein. It's not muscle. It's not bone. It's 60% fat. That should be surprising. And for that reason, fat is an excellent source of brain energy. So that's one reason why I point this out. The other thing is it uses 25% of your energy. And there's more connections and more information in there than stars in the universe. And that just blows my mind. Okay, so that's the first part about it. Now, the aging brain and the aging mind and how to fight back. So your brain is constantly changing. It doesn't just stay in one situation. What happens is when these neurons that you see in this example over here, when you see these neurons, I don't know if you can see it over there. These neurons are dendrites, which come out from these neurons. And these neurons grow together as we are challenged with new information. So when you are given a body of water, let's say you see water, and then you see somebody drown in the water, and you realize that could be you, your body is building brain connections to tell you, be careful when you get in the water. And these are grown. And what happens is the connections that you use a lot get strengthened. And the connections that you don't use a lot, the thoughts you don't think a lot about, get pruned. They actually get removed because the brain can't have all of this data going on. It's a storage, but what you need to function on is today. And the truth is this process of connections getting pruned and used connections getting strengthened is the basis of habits, the basis of addiction, the basis of how we learn things. And this process continues throughout your whole life. Now, how can we harness these processes to promote better mental function in aging? So, this is why one of the hallmarks you're going to find out in this little presentation I'm going to show you is that you have to challenge the brain every day. Simply doing the same habits, sitting in the same spot, using the same hand to eat, the same way that you look at the mirror can create brain degeneration because you're not mixing it up. You need to mix things up. Brain responds to challenges. And I think that'll be very clear as we go through this process. Okay, so we understand about the connections. They get pruned if they're unused. Used connections get strengthened. Pretty simple. Now, to establish a healthy lifestyle behaviors throughout your life influences optimal aging. So, first one, positive attitude, eating smart, physical activity, also brain activity, encouraging your brain activity, social activity, being social with other people and mixing socially is very important. Tuning into the times, knowing what's happening around you and all the new incredible things that were so interesting when you were younger. As you get older, you really don't care. But let me tell you, your brain suffers. You want to practice being safe with optimal aging, making sure that you have a handrail if you're unsteady, if you're in a situation, you got to be careful about when you walk. I used to, as a chiropractor, I would tell a person, don't look down when you walk. Look ahead first to make sure there's nothing in the way. Walk forward with your head up and then look ahead and look down to see there's nothing there and then look up again. To keep looking down the whole time as you're walking, that creates brain damage and physical damage. You also want to know your health numbers, and that would be your body fat percentages, your resting caloric intake, your blood pressure, your cholesterol levels, your blood sugar, because all of these factors come into creating brain disease through metabolic syndrome. So the same problem, which is affecting your blood sugar, that's affecting your body's ability to process glucose, is also affecting your brain's ability to get energy from the body, and thus cognitive problems happen. How to prevent dementia. Know your numbers, man. Stress management is huge. Stress is a fight or flight response. We're either running from something or hiding from something, and we're not thinking about long-term math equations. You're not thinking about where you're going to be in 10 years. You're not going to think about who you love and who you don't. When you're under stress, it's about protecting your body from death. You become very over concerned about your health. And then the other part is you feel like you're running out of time. That's how humans respond to stress. They get concerned about their body. They're worried about health problems, and they never think they have enough time. And that's comes back to primordial flight, fight, and flight stress response, where the animal is worried about being killed and wondering how long it's going to take to get out of that situation. Humans show up as stress. Also, managing your financial affairs. We live in a world that requires money. We haven't gotten around that. If you're broke and you don't have money, you're going to have a lot of stress. And you need to manage your financial affairs as you get older so you have that money. You're not stressing out over every time the gas goes up a few cents. And sleep. Sleep is critically important. Sleep, of all of the things here, not one of them is more important than others, but sleep is really important. And when you have stress, when you're not comfortable, when you have a lot of going on in your mind, you have a bad attitude, your social is suffering, you're not in with the times, sleep suffers. And when you suffer sleep, your brain suffers. You need to take time for you. All right. So there's a new thing called neurobics. A neurobic is an aerobic exercise for the brain, just like you would do aerobic exercises for your muscles, for your joints. There's also exercises you can do for your brain, and they're fascinating and challenging because you can use all of the senses to exercise your brain, which helps your brain get stronger by growing new connections. That is the healing of brain, is growing new connections. Neurobics, or aerobic exercises for the brain, they force you out of habitual routines that do not demand as much brain power. For example, you don't think about the way in which you brush your teeth every day or every night. You just do it. But if you were to brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand, you will have to work harder to properly brush. And thus, your brain connections will be improved. The same concept can be applied to getting dressed, eating, or doing other familiar activities, including driving a new route home from the store or cleaning the kitchen last if you usually clean it first. Mix things up. Sit on the other side of the TV once in a while. You got to mix things up. You get into habits which are easy, and the brain starts to degenerate because it needs to be challenged. So what is better for your brain? Socialization, mental stimulation, physical activity, nutrition, and sleep. And this has to do with socialization. So here's some suggestions. Keep in touch with your friends and family, friends and friends. Stay engaged or involved with your community. Know your neighbors. And literally plug into the world, watch some YouTube videos, learn some new things, and socialize. Get out, say hi to your neighbors, volunteer at one of the churches or somewhere where you can help people. People that do that have much healthier brain function than the ones who isolate and become shut-ins. Very unhealthy to be alone. We're social creatures. We need each other more than you could ever imagine. Mental stimulation. Mental exercises can stimulate and enhance your brain cell connections. Mental exercise can delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease and or reduce the effects. Mental exercise increases the blood flow to the brain. So how do you exercise your brain? Here's the first way: good old physical activity. Yep. Physical activity, it increases the blood flow. It helps memory and thinking. Physical activity reduces stress. It enhances decision making, and it helps delay Alzheimer's disease just by being active. Your brain is an organ. It needs blood supply. It needs nutrition, and it needs to do its job and then be cleansed through blood flow and nutrition. Yet, just like if you didn't exercise your muscles, they would get weak. If you don't exercise your body, that's how you get blood to the brain, is by exercise. So the number one source of dementia and cognitive decline in most people over 50 is they're just not exercising anymore. They're not doing anything to raise their blood. They get lazy. And this causes the brain to atrophy and suffer. So the first thing, physical activity. Absolutely, 100%. This is how exercise protects the brain. When you move your muscles, you produce a hormone called an insulin-like growth factor. The insulin-like growth factor goes to your brain, and it helps to repair and it helps to rebuild the nutrition and the substances necessary to protect the brain. And one of them is called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. BDNF is produced by the body when you exercise or when you go into fasting, when you're not actually eating. Your body produces these brain-derived neurotrophic factors, which repair and can heal the damaged tissue in your brain by simply exercising. The role of nutrition with food as medicine in the brain is really, really important. Nutrition is the most important and least used tool for staying mentally and physically fit. The typical North American diet is toxic. It's full of sugar, saturated fat, and chemical additives. All invite free radicals and inflammation to invade your brain. Free radicals are the byproducts of chemicals and processed food. When our body breaks down these chemicals, these substances are called free radicals because they're radical. And what they do is they create damage to protein, to nerve tissue, and to other tissues by cross-linking, by getting involved in the tissue repair, the tissue growth. These free radicals disrupt it because they need a place to grab onto. They're free radicals. And this inflammation over time fills your brain with inflammation. Not okay. Simply cutting out sugar, saturated fat, and chemical additives, SOS, sugar, oils, and starch, your body's going to be better. You want to seek foods that are high in antioxidants and omega-3s. This would be a heart healthy diet, is equal to a brain healthy diet. Avoid excess calories, overeating. Avoid excess salt or sodium. And avoid bad cholesterols. Now, if you need help with food and diet, that's what we're doing at the Slim Body Spa. We're helping people overcome that. But I think these types of suggestions are pretty simple to understand. Antioxidants, vegetables, vegetables and more vegetables, omega-3s, those are your fatty acids that occur in salmon and some plant-based, and they're very good for you. Now, your brain needs fat. Fat equals brain. Your brain needs more fat than any other nutrient. It does not need unhealthy fats. Unhealthy fats equal an unhealthy brain. So, the types of fats which are healthy are fats like olive oil. Yeah, I'm going to tell you that olive oil, avocados, MCTs are probably your best. I don't really like canola oil or safflower oil. I think that those are oils, but they're not really healthy fats. Healthy fats are omega-3, salmon, the fat in salmon, the fat in avocados, and you want foods that are high in antioxidants, and these are less prone to free radical attack and damage. So brain needs fat. One source of fat I like is dairy products, as long as they're grain fed, and that would be butters and cottage cheese and even sour cream with a high fat content. There's a lot of fat in cheeses, which are good for the brain, and there's fat in animal products. And there's your salmon. You got to be hydrated. Of all of the findings that I find in my Slim Body Spa when I'm doing my body fat analysis and I'm doing my initial intakes, we always check somebody's overall hydration, how hydrated they are, how much water you're holding. And most people are severely dehydrated because they have given up water for fizzy drinks and for sweet drinks and for flavored drinks. And you're not really getting enough water as a result of that, and you're actually dehydrated. So when your brain is dehydrated and you don't have enough water in your brain, you suffer, and you suffer badly. I really mean that. It's not pretty. And hydration, just being hydrated, is the number one thing that's going to help you with brain function. Okay. There are some foods that make you smarter. How about that? Berries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. They're smart because they have antioxidants. Omega-3, enriched eggs, free range, vegetarian, high vitamin B. I do a lot of omega-3 eggs. Weeds, salad, omega-3. I have no idea what purslane is, but I guess it's an herb. Another beneficial fat would be wild sockeye salmon. Okay. Studies that people that eat a lot of salmon are some of the happiest, healthiest, smartest on the planet. Spinach, yeah, Popeye was right. Spinach was good, and it has lutein and antioxidants, including folic acid and vitamin B. Also, some seeds, pumpkin seeds, ground flaxseed. These have these good omega-3s. Walnuts and walnut oil are fantastic omega-3s. Give me 1 second. I have to just recycle this. All right. And we are back. Yeah, there's every 30 minutes, my camera has to be recycled. So I needed to do that. All right. Some more things to help with brain function are herbal remedies. And that would be turmeric, calorie restriction decrease of 25%. I'm going to go back to that. You want to use both vitamin C and vitamin E. And if you have enough vitamin C and E, you can decrease the prevalence of Alzheimer's by 78%. Vitamin C and vitamin E are heavy, strong antioxidants, and they help stop the cross-linking and the cellular damage in your brain. So you want vitamin C and vitamin E. Also, CoQ10, which is something which helps with nitric oxide and helps with blood circulation. And CoQ10 is a wonderful supplement that helps improve oxygen. And exercise training increases the size of your hippocampus, which is a part of your brain which controls memory. And you should be getting vitamin D. If you don't know about vitamin D, since COVID, you've been living in or under a rock somewhere, because vitamin D is super, super beneficial, and it activates over 900 genes that help with health. Now, the caloric restriction, a decrease of 25% of the amount of food you eat, has been proven to extend lifespan, to help with health, to decrease inflammation, to improve memory, to improve sleep, and to also help with blood sugar and to reduce the chances of having metabolic syndrome by decreasing your calories 25%. Now, that's not asking a lot, but it is, we are literally digging our graves with our forks and knives, people. If that isn't news to you, if that's something that you don't believe or think that that's what's happening, just go out to any event where they're walking in the park, or just go to a big grocery store in the morning and look at the people walk in. They have to hold on to carts to get through the day, and they're filling up the cart with more food and more stuff. And we're just overeating, and we're eating too much and too often. Cut down your calories by 25%, and your brain will thank you for that. So these are some of your important numbers. All right. Now, this would be a whole 2 hours to go over each one of them, but I'm going to try to skim through this very quickly, and so you understand what they are. The first number you need to know is your BMI, and that's your body mass index. That is how much fat you have compared to lean muscle. We want to be between 20 to 25% of our body can be fat. The other 75 to 80% should be lean muscle. Now, obviously, it's not all muscle because there's water and bones. However, we don't want to have too much body fat. If your body fat starts creeping up above 25 and 30%, this is a high BMI, and this is inflammatory, and this will cause you to be sick and have brain problems. You want to know your caloric intake per day. That's why if you don't know how many calories you normally eat, how can you back off 25% if you don't know that number? I have found that people that count their calories get better results than those who do not, because you can't get rid of food you ate. It's going to be stored. It's going to be turned into fat, and that's just the way it goes. So you don't want that to happen. You want to know how many calories you're eating every time. The other one is increase of fruit and veggies. You want to know that number. You also want to know how many hours you're sleeping per day, per night. Okay. And also how much water you're drinking. Are you getting enough water? Water is critical. You want to know your blood pressure? 120 over 70 is normal blood pressure. You want to know, you also want to get a complete blood count. And this would be blood work done, at least every year. More if you're trying to, if you have a health problem you're trying to manage, that blood work tells you how much body fat you have, how much triglycerides you have, whether or not you have inflammation. There's a lot of things that blood work will tell you that's very important. From that blood work, you want something called a lipid panel. Now, a lipid panel, lipid means fat, and this would be something that would be for somebody who is obese, they're overweight, they're starting to have blood sugar hyperglycemia. A lipid panel tells you your blood glucose levels from fasting. It also tells you your A1C number, which is the 3-month window as to how much blood sugar, how high your blood sugar is. It's a 3-month window of how much it's been for 3 months. Let me clarify that. Your blood sugar can go up and down based on when you eat and when you haven't eaten. It changes all the time. However, when it's elevated for any length of time, that's called diabetes. And the best marker to look for diabetes is the 3-month A1C number, because the A1C number is a test where they look at the red blood cells and they can take it and say, in the last 3 months, X amount of blood sugar has collected in that cell. So this means the blood sugar has been high for a very long time. And that's very indicative of bad type 2 diabetes. You'll only find that out with a lipid panel. It'll check cholesterol. It'll also check HDL and LDL levels. All right. Another important number is the vitamin D level. We do make vitamin D with sun and cholesterol and certain, things, but because we're hiding from the sun, we're taking cholesterol medications nowadays. Your vitamin D levels are in the toilet. I mean, they are really low on people. So whenever you go to the doctor, it's incredible. I mean, 90% of the people are vitamin D levels that are critically low. So taking vitamin D supplementation, if you're not out, a sun worshiper, is a really good idea. Okay, so you want to maintain vitamin D levels. Your AA and EPA ratios. Also, is your thyroid balanced? Thyroid levels can lead to brain problems because thyroid controls metabolism. Low thyroid levels equals weight gain and fat accumulation. High thyroid is just the opposite. That's called Graves' disease. And this is where everybody is too thin. You're not able to hold fat. So you want to know your thyroid levels. You also want to know your testosterone levels. Of course, in men, it's critically important, but you women have testosterone also. And testosterone is the hormone your body produces in small amounts if you're a female, but in large amounts for a man. And testosterone is a protective hormone which protects the cells from cellular damage, and it builds tissue. So you want to have decent testosterone levels for health. Homocysteine is another amino acid which you should have checked. You want to know your homocysteine levels. You also want to know your C-reactive protein level. Now, C-reactive protein is a biomarker that you find when you do blood work, which is a very indicative of internal inflammation, swelling, inflammatory disease, heart disease, vessel disease, leads high C-reactive proteins. And of course, you see the HbA1c I went over as part of the lipid panel, and fasting blood sugar. So here's some healthy foods. This is some good information here for nutrition. You want to try dark-skinned vegetables, cold water fish which occurs in, why cold water? Because it has more oils. Salmon, cod, swordfish, they have more oils than fish that occur in the, than tilapia or fish that occur in the in the tidal waters. Cold water fish have better fat. You want nuts? Pretty good idea. dark skinned fruit. Now, why are we saying dark skinned fruits and dark skinned vegetables? Because those colors, those purples and those blues and those yellows and those reds, those are phytonutrients that are not, you don't really get them if you have processed food. So you want food that's fresh, but has these colors in it. That's going to help your brain function better and longer. You want to drink lots of water, eat whole grain. Now, that's not the same. When you see whole grain, the bread you see that says whole grain bread, that's not the same thing. That bread's been processed from whole grains, but because it's been processed, there's very little whole grain left in it. So whole grain is raw. And don't be confused on that. You know, a whole grain muffin that's been baked and cooked and loaded in sugar is useless. It's poison. You want lots of olive oil, and we know that's to be good. These are brain healthy foods to try. Now, here's what you want to avoid and limit: fried, greasy, high fat foods. Listen, stay away anything that's fried. Unless you fried it yourself in olive oil or maybe some grapeseed oil or coconut oil, which are good fats, any of the other fryers are just toxic for your health. Stay away from fried food. Excess sugary products, things that contain high fructose corn syrup, HCFS, it says on the label. I don't have to tell you about that. If you still think that sugar products are good for you, then you might need to go back to elementary school and go over that again, because they're death. It really is. Too much of it, of course. Salty foods, not good. Salty foods have a lot of sodium, and sodium increases blood pressure, increases inflammation, and that is not a good thing. Fast foods and processed foods are chemical storms of garbage, yet they're designed to be sweet, to be salty, and have lots of bad oil in it. SOS, sugar, oil, and salt. Bad, bad, bad. If you can avoid fast food and processed foods, you would empty out the medical industry. They'd have no one to work on because everyone would be healthy. Alcohol and caffeine. Now, these are something that people use all the time. They're not willing to give up their alcohol or caffeine, and in small amounts, it's fairly acceptable. But in larger amounts, very, very bad for you. And only you can be the judge of that. Refined grains. These are grains, you know, rice, wheat, barley, malt. These are great when they were raw and your body had to go through the fiber and chew them up to digest them. But once they've been refined, which means they've been processed to remove the husk, to remove the grain, to remove the fiber, now you've got a simple carbohydrate, which is the same as sugar. So stay away from refined food. Another one, other oils and solid fats. Limit and avoid. A lack of sleep negatively affects your memory, your mood, your concentration, your coordination, and your safety. What happens when children don't get enough sleep? Right? You know exactly what happens. They are cranky, they are upset, they're moody, they can't concentrate, and we know little boy just needs a nap, you know? Why don't we treat ourselves the same way? Listen, if you're tired, take a nap. You're not giving up on the world. Don't worry what somebody says. Some of the most successful, most productive members of our society back in ages napped every day. I mean, you know, presidents, famous baseball players, famous artists, and people that performed all took naps. Some of them actually required that they have a cot and a place where they can take a nap in between during the day. It refreshes your brain. It recharges the neurons. It's a good thing. Most people are walking around completely sleep deprived because of the stimulants of food, and then they're not getting enough uninterrupted sleep. It's okay to catch up on sleep. Your brain will thank you for it. How to get better sleep. exercise, eat a well-balanced diet, set regular bedtime and waking hours, avoid reading or watching television while in bed. So I'm only going to say one thing about this, about reading in bed and stuff. This is a fact. When you start to get near when the sun goes down and it's getting dark out and your body is starting to produce melatonin, you're going to get this one time close your eyes and go right to sleep because it's a natural state. Now, if you do that in front of a TV, if you do that listening to something which is maybe an audio tape, or you're doing it on the couch instead of going in and going to bed, you're going to miss out on that initial gift of instantly falling asleep. And by doing it on a couch or not in bed is going to require you to either get up because your back's going to hurt because couches and chairs are not where you should be sleeping, and going into bed. But now you've missed that opportunity, that quick fall to sleep that you get. And now you struggle to maybe go back to sleep. Or if you do, you never get to REM sleep. It's not the same. Gosh darn it. Stop falling asleep on the couch. Stop falling asleep on the chair. If you're sleepy, get up, go into your room and go to sleep. If you wake up at 3, 4 in the morning because you went to bed too early, that's fine. Pick up a book and read. It'll be quiet and you'll get more done. All right. Oh, and here's my favorite. Don't worry about this. This is common. Everybody has obesity. Nobody's really doing anything about it. The medical profession is setting up a system that's going to bankrupt the whole America with this Ozempic, because they're going to start making sure that everybody that's obese is going to be put on this semaglutide, and they're going to make sure that that taxes pay for it. Remember, we're 80% obese, 80% overweight. 40 to 50% of America is morbidly obese. That's a health risk. It's going to bankrupt the country. And the latest, greatest is Ozempic, which I am 100% against if you haven't tried other things first. And that means more than promises, more than a Fitbit watch, more than joining a gym and not going. Okay, come on. You're on Ozempic because you're not taking good care of yourself, or you wouldn't be overweight and fat like that. And over time, you have to take that stuff forever. It doesn't cure the problem. In fact, it creates recidivism. Once you get off of it, you'll have to take it the rest of your life. And they're proving that. And the average cost right now is about $15,000 per year. So can you afford that? Obesity shrinks your brain. It's associated with reduced brain volume. It slows cognitive function. Brains of overweight, obese individuals appear 8 to 16 years older, respectively. It also controls type 2 diabetes. If you are obese, get into the Slim Body Spa as quick as you can. I got lots of different tools. We get results. I'll leave it at that. So what steps can you do today to start making better brain health? Physical exercise, moderate intensity walking, at least, 150 minutes per week. So if you walk 7 days a week and you do 20 minutes, you're good. Okay. You want to lift weights. You need to strengthen muscle. Muscle is absorbs the toxins. Muscles protect your skeletal system. If you fall, muscles allow you to get out of bed. They allow you to sit up. They allow you to digest. Muscles are everything. And you need to concentrate on strengthening muscles when you're older. And once you're over 50, you have to lift weights. You can't get the muscle strength back just by walking the bridge or riding on a bicycle. I mean, for the most part. You need a healthy diet. Brightly colored fruits and vegetables, at least 5 servings a day. Your healthy diet should contain fish, ocean, swimming fish every week, and also a Mediterranean diet or a DASH diet or a keto diet, which was not in this study, but keto is proteins and healthy fats, low carbohydrate. You want mental exercise, creative, productive activities, puzzles, games, arts, crafts, start a new hobby, do crossword puzzles, sit in the opposite side of the room, get out of the chair that you've been in and sit in the other chair, mix things up. Your brain will love it for this. There's also computerized brain games you can do. Now, what about the risk factors? Now, I've been talking about brain health and I've been going over this, and now you're starting to realize that it's important. But listen, if you have any of these problems, this is really important to you because you're at a huge risk of developing dementia, Alzheimer's, and the fact that someone's going to have to take care of you the rest of your life if you don't do something to help yourself. Here's one of them, diabetes, type 2 diabetes. If you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or you're hyperglycemic and you're moving in that direction, you're a huge risk for brain problems. Hypertension, that would be a blood pressure that is elevated over a series of months or weeks, not just one time. If you have hypertension, you got blood supply issues, and you need to look at this because this is eventually going to hurt your brain. Obesity, just talked about it. Big fat people have small brains, and it just gets worse for them. Sleep apnea, if you're having problems with sleep and your body just stops breathing, and then you take that big breath, and and your wife's telling you that, and you're always tired, you might want to think about a sleep study, get on a CPAP machine. Sleep apnea is a huge risk factor for dementia and brain problems. Have you ever had a head trauma? Have you ever hit your head? Have you ever been in an auto accident where maybe you went forward but didn't hit your head, but all the brain material went back and forth? That's what happened to me. You are at more of a risk of developing dementia and cognitive problems because you hit your head. And this could be even something when you were a kid. This is what leads to these problems. Your genetic disposition has to do with finding out familial family members that have had brain problems before you. Mom, dad, brothers, uncles, aunts, cousins, got a history of dementia, history of Alzheimer's. That's important because you need to do what I just went over even more so than someone who isn't. And then stress. Stress is the juggernaut. Stress is, I would tell you honestly, that stress is probably the biggest number one factor as to why we have sickness, why we have high blood sugar, why we're collecting too much body fat, why we don't exercise, why we worry, why we have digestive troubles, why, it just goes on and on and on. And stress, yes, stress can come by worrying and watching things that you cannot do anything about, right? Political problems, things that happen around the world, how horrible it is. I see it, but I know I can't change it. It's not going to serve me to think about it more than just seeing it. Should I send $20 to them? Maybe that would be an option, but limit what comes into your life. Limit what you look at, who you hang with, the people you talk to. Stay positive. Remove stress. Stress is easy to remove, but you got to remove yourself from the energy from it. At first, you're going to go through withdrawals. Trust me. You're going to feel like you're missing something, but you're not. You'll be healthier and you'll be happier, and your brain will thank you. So on the other side, eat a brain healthy diet, do physical fitness, cognitive stimulation, and meditation. Now, nootropics are smart drugs and cognitive enhancers. They're supplements and other substances that may improve your cognitive function and memory, creativity, or motivation. Now, these should be used carefully because they can help, but they're not a fix-all when you have other problems. And some of them are listed here, and the way I can't go over all of these, but if you want to go back to this podcast and you want to go back, because this will be available on my website, drtredtv.com, or on my Facebook page, because these are all going live right now, and you can take a screenshot of this. I would highly suggest you do that. There's ashwagandha, there's creatine, feverfew, fish oils, ginkgoa biloba, inositol, melatonin, rhodiola rosea, L-theanine, vitamin B2, and zinc are called nootropics, and these can help you with brain problems. Aging is inevitable, you guys. By embracing a healthy lifestyle throughout your life, you'll have a greater ability to engineer a positive approach to the aging process. And here's the good news. Your capacity to develop new synapses is incredible. You still have the capacity to develop neurons as long as you have thought processes, memory, reasoning, learning are retained, but it may be a little slower. However, your brain will heal, it will adapt, just like if you weren't using your leg and it got all weak and out of shape and you started putting more time into it and more energy into strengthening it and being aware of it, it's going to improve. Your brain is exactly the same way. You don't lose your memory. Your brain degenerates where your memory is not accessible. Improve your brain, improve your nutrition, improve your exercise, get the right nutrients, reduce the stress. Your brain memory is going to improve. It's that simple. Stay away from sugars. The brain we develop reflects the life we lead. And that's a quote by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. So, let's just get back to me. There we go. So I implore you, I plead with you to take better care of your health and your brain. I had a year and a half ago, I was in an auto accident. This person turned on US 1 from the left lane right into traffic, and I was in the leader of the pack that was moving from that one light. So I was the first car that she hit, and I hit her. And what it did was it was a 50-mile-an-hour shot, and it caused of course, the engine compartment pushed into my passenger compartment, and I put my foot out, but my airbags protected me from dying. And all the airbags went off, ceiling. I had a 2020 Ford F-150, beautiful truck. And the truck, that impact stopped, and then it pushed off to the side and it flipped over in the air, did a complete somersault and landed on the tires. I hopped out of that. Airbags went off. I was able to cut one of the airbags away on the passenger side. I happened to have a razor knife in my truck from hunting. It's weird, but it's amazing how things are provided when you need them. And I climbed out that door, and I didn't really get hurt that much. I hurt my foot, and I was shook up, but I didn't. I just couldn't believe it. And what happened was I started to develop some cognitive problems. I knew right away that impact, because I didn't hit my head, but my body was traveling at 50 miles an hour, and it stopped suddenly, and the soft brain material still goes forward. And what it does is it can cause a very small tear in the brainstem, where the gray matter, which is what you would think of in somebody's brain, is that jelly looking stuff in the brainstem, is more like the horse hairs, or like a broom, like a corn broom. Those fibers are very thick. And when that soft mass gets pushed on top of it, it tears some of those fibers. And those are connections to your thoughts, to your vision, to your hearing. For me, it was cognitive. It was numbers. It was some short-term memory things. And I went right away, right at the accident, because I didn't break anything. And I went to the chiropractor, of course. But one of my friends is a neurologist. His name is Dr. True. And he's a board-certified neurologist, chiropractic neurologist, and he specializes in brain therapy. So he used his laser to help me heal from it. And I was super, super grateful. So I went to Dr. True. He helped me out enormously. And now I'm really, really working hard on keeping my body healthy and helping with my brain to be healthier. And when you see my face, you know, and my whole face has changed since I lost that weight. And I can't say enough for it. So listen, if you need any help, call my spa, 772-223-5885. You can go online, Dr. Tread Slim Body Laser Spa, hit the contact page. I can help you with the fasting. I can help you with, you know, helping with brain healing. We do lasers for brain, you know, treatment. We also use the lasers to get rid of the body fat, which eventually improves brain function all the way around. Okay. So if you like what you heard, give me 2 thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I so appreciate you. Namaste. God bless.